That's what you're doing, you're helping us teach now. You're teaching us. You know everybody?
CJ, are you?
I don't know him. Who don't you know? Come on, you're like that.
Nobody.
You know You do? Man, you're popular, dude.
So has he read this?
Yes,
Okay,
it was like
great.
2 weeks ago.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're just going to listen to you read a little bit. Can you read loud enough for everybody to hear you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how old are you?
6.
So you've read Max Goes Fishing before?
This one's the papers for it.
Were you tired this morning? It was dark out, wasn't it? When I got up, it was pitch black. I thought, oh my gosh. We're just going to wait till they come back anyway. You guys want to try it without, or do you want to wait?
Kind of one of those.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to take
I have
ours.
Can I have one too, please?
Yeah.
I see you brush your teeth. Good job. Can you spell your name for me? CJ. Get it. Just everybody, CJ. Get it? C Oh, that's C. E. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Is it Cedric?
Okay, cool.
Cedric?
Same as Dad.
Right? Yep.
He's a handsome guy. All right, so here we go with Max Goes Fishing. I just want you to read it loud enough so that everybody can hear you.
Max.
Wait, we're gonna wait till she sits down.
Whoops, sorry, ma'am. I should have won.
All right, go bud.
Max and Grandpa sat down on the steps. I like going fishing with you, Grandpa said Max. This is a good day for fishing, said Grandpa. We will get some big fish today. Here is your fishing line, Max, and here is my fishing line. Look, Grandpa said Max. I can see some little fish nibble, 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 nibble. With the hungry little fish. Now, look down at his line in the water. Where are the big fish? Grandpa said. They are not coming today. The little fish came back to Max's line. Nibble, nibble, nibble with the hungry little fish. Again, go away, little fish, said Max. Grandpa looked at the shellfish on the step. A big fish will like that. This, he said. Max and Grandpa went fishing. Grandpa, shouted Max. Look at my big fish, said Max.
So what level have you been working with him on? This is an 8?
This is yes. He just came to the yellow group. Actually, Max and, yeah, it's 8. Max Goes Fishing. Remember on the back of the books, buddy, when you look at the back of the books, they tell you the numbers?
Because I'll tell you, I thought he did great with this
Yeah,
one.
that's it.
And how many times has he read this?
probably 10.
Okay. Oh, so that's a lot.
Right, because they read it the one week and then they reread it the next week.
So do you do
And
a
then
new book? Do you do a new book a day?
New book a week.
Ooh, I'm gonna suggest you go at least a new book a day with these little ones like this.
Well, yeah. He was, and I brought him.
Uh-huh. I wonder if I have another one here.
I can't print the text. I got, what do you want, a 10?
Yeah.
He was, Buddy, what color were you in? You were in the red group?
Yeah.
I thought you were great.
Remember these
Well,
stories
here's
you
an
read?
8. Let's try another 8. That's not been, I just want to see what he does with one that's
When
not
did
been
you
read.
come down? When did you go to the yellow group? At the toy store? Did you read at the toy store?
No.
No, you didn't. At the ball game, remember the ball game one? When the kid hit the ball? You didn't do that one? Look out for bingo?
Mhm.
You didn't look out for bingo?
Let me try this one.
You can try this one. This is a 12. This is what he did already.
Well,
You want to do a cold read with him?
I'd like to see a cold read.
Oh, go for it.
So I'm just going to cross the cross line.
You did a good job on your slide.
You did an unbelievable job. Like, you really knew every one of those words. I loved how you self-corrected. You fixed any word you made. This one's called At the Track. I'm going to just show you a couple words in here that I think are tricky. These are different bugs in here. And so he's a cricket. His name is Brad the Cricket. So I didn't know if you might not know the word cricket. And then this is, do you know what kind of insect that one is?
The grasshopper.
Yes, and this one's an,
And
yeah. Other than that, I bet you can read all of these words. So will you just give this one a try? It's called At the Track. Just give this one a try, buddy.
Brad the cricket likes to Brad,
That's a B.
Brad, Brad, I can beat and at the track. I can beat grasshopper. I can beat ant. And I can beat two. Fred the cricket likes to brag. I can beat. I can and at the track I can beat grasshopper. I can beat ant. And I can beat Brad two. Brad and Fred bring to release Brad hopes fast, but Fred hops faster. Fred hops fast, but Brad hops faster. Brad, it trips. Greg trips to. Greg is Greg get up. Greg hops fast, but Greg hops faster. Greg hops fast, but Greg hops faster. Greg beat hops. Greg drops two. Red is green. We can bet grasshopper. We can beat ant. But we can't beat each other.
Good job. You did a great job on that, CJ. Thank you so much. Thanks
One
for
round of
helping us
applause.
all out.
High five.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Do you know where you're going? Okay.
You're done with special, so you can go back to Mr. Visit.
See you, bud. He
All right.
was in a group that was on 12.
Yeah, I couldn't
He
imagine
was-
him doing a 12.
No, so, and that group could go on, so I had to bring him down and bump them up.
But-
So he does well
So
with.
think about the 8.
Mhm.
All right, so the cold 8 versus the one that he's read so many times. So let's talk about the one that he read so many times first. Here's what did you notice? And then I'll tell you what I noticed. Did you have any errors?
Yeah, the first one steps.
Yeah, he left off the S on steps.
Did he insert nibble? Was it more than?
He said nibble,
I think
then he
it
went
was
back and
repeating.
self-corrected
Okay,
it. He
all
said
right.
nibbling, and then he went back and self-corrected and said nibble, nibble, nibble.
And here.
He stumbled over here.
Uh-huh.
Both
But he
times.
got
But
it.
he got it.
He got it.
And then the
But then
word
he
this
skipped
and
over
that.
fishes on my line at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. But he got the this and the that. He self-corrected on several high-frequency words is what I noticed.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so he did well because he had read it so many times. So tell me about at the track, when he did this. When if this was a cold read, and I wouldn't be doing a running record on a cold read, but I probably would do it on after about 2 or 3 reads to really get a sense of, is he using his strategies? So
Was the word brags that he kept tripping over?
yes,
Okay.
he kept saying the D.
Well, and his sister does that. I have his
Drag,
sister.
yeah. So he said that. He said hopes for hop. He said
First for fast. Anyone
first
was
for
on.
fast.
I think did he miss anyone?
He missed
He missed
anyone
anyone
first
every
time.
single
I
time.
thought the last time he got it. Didn't he get, or, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't get anyone ever. So I put that down. He said and one at one point. Something about, what did I put down? Instead of back, he said brack. Maybe
He was
brack
looking
for
at the
brag.
pictures a lot too.
He was really looking at the pictures a lot. Yeah, he did. And much more word by word.
Yeah.
Lots of decoding. So, I mean, and this is like, to me, these Modern Curriculum Press, I like them for young readers because there's a lot of decodable words in here as well. So he was decoding a lot. He was, I mean, he really did a lot of decoding with it. So we want to make that a little more automatic. But I would say, yeah, just because of his rate and his word by word, that 8 is a fine place for him. I would think 10 would be, there'd be too many words he wouldn't know and it'd be too slow.
So can we go back just like 5 minutes when you said you wanted us to be doing a book a day?
Yeah.
For till like what level? 17? Like 18?
No. No. When you're in the 4s, 6s, 8s, even 10s, they're short enough that you can do one a day. It's when you get to 12s that they're longer, that it might take 2 days to get through. Some 12s maybe not. 14s are longer, 16s, they might take longer to get through. But these, Oh, absolutely, I'd be doing it. So when you look at that, look at the plan, look at the beginning reader plan. The very first box says reread, word automaticity. That's where we put the reread in. So if I had used this book, because really, when you think about how long it took him to read, even if you've got like 10 minutes for a new read, you're going to give you might have just said, it's a one set, this is a story about some bugs that are at the track racing. You're going to decide what words you want to implant. I really thought the only ones he needed were cricket and grasshopper. Now when I look at it, anyone might have tripped it up, but it was good that you could see what he could get out of it and what he couldn't. And then off they go reading it. And I'm just going to listen in as they read it. And I always tell them, keep reading until I tell you stop. So if he would have been in my group, I would have said, go back to the beginning and start reading again, because I want them to get through it a couple of times. Then it might have just been, I would probably have just said, okay, I noticed that several of you, this word was a little tricky. Turn to page, and I would go to the word anyone. Let's take a look at this word. What would make sense? Here's the thing I kept thinking, he's not monitoring for meaning on this at all. It was just, I'm decoding those words. He was the only reason that he probably would understand this book is by the pictures, because he was reading it so slow and decoding each word. Sometimes he said hops, Fred hopes fast, but bread hops faster. He was using, it was the same word hops, but he was using them interchangeably. So he really wasn't monitoring his reading. And that's typical of beginning readers. They're not going to really understand it until they read it again. So that's why I want to get them into reading it twice. Tomorrow, in the first part of that plan, I'd be writing in there, reread at the track. They would start the day out with...
So during your new read area, if that was my new read for the day, during this 8 to 10 minutes, that's when you would predict and preview and all that stuff, or are you not doing that?
So what's
I just want to make sure I'm understanding the right way.
So what's the point of a picture walk?
So what if he doesn't know what a track is, or so he has meaning when he reads?
Okay. Is there enough information in here that he might not be able to tell what a track is? And that's where you have to know your kids.
Yeah.
So I'd be saying, well, he knows that they're running. So I'm going to probably think, we've got tracks. I'm going to see what he comes up with.
So you don't do that. You don't do the predicting or any of that stuff.
A lot of these books are not that. No, it just depends. It depends on if I've been working on predicting. Instead, I might say, let's do a little picture walk for maybe just the first 2 pages on whatever words I'm going to implant. But I'm not going to talk about the whole story before we read, no. Because then there's no solving on their own, or there's no using what they think on their own. I might have said, this is a story about some insect friends who want to race, who are going to have a race around the track. So I always want to come up with a 1-sentence introduction. Then I'm going to implant a little bit of vocabulary. At the end, and again it says right on the plan, I would note more what were some of the reading behaviors I noticed. Wow, I noticed that you said, that someone said, Fred hopes fast, but Brad hops faster. What should I have said on that page? So I'm going to call them back, and that's why I want to take a little, I want to know what they're doing.
So are you giving them, so you're doing that, you're doing your own introduction, a sentence or 2 or whatever, and then are you just saying, here, go and read, or are you setting a purpose, we're going to find out who won the race, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Is there
because
something?
I would have done the cueing strategy mini lesson for this.
Okay.
So right now, to me, what he needs is, he's getting his mouth ready. He's not monitoring his reading at all. So I probably would be doing some monitoring reading lessons. I might do skip to the end and go back and reread. I might do some of that with him because he wasn't doing that at all. So I would have a little mini lesson. And I'd be saying, remember, if you come to a word you don't know, what do we do? And they should be able to say, get our mouth ready, skip and read to the end. The whole focus for beginning readers in small group is teaching them those cueing strategies and how to monitor for meaning. It's not so much making predictions, retelling the story, as it is teaching them how to be a strategic reader.
I guess I'm so
that's
confused
my
on how you're
focus.
monitoring that they understand what they're reading.
So at the end I might just briefly say, okay, so tell me what the story was about. Quick.
So a new book for anybody under 8, a day, new book a day?
Oh, I think even 10. It depends on the book. I would have to look at the book, like this is, it depends on the
Even like
book.
the lows that are on 4s that
Oh,
need-
gosh, yes. They're gonna reread it again the next day.
I think what she's saying is that by focusing on prediction and comprehension and sequencing, we're kind of
You're focusing on the wrong stuff.
We shouldn't be doing that until they're fluent readers.
They can't comprehend if they don't know what.
So here's what you're doing. You're teaching them how to comprehend at the sentence level so they can comprehend at the whole level. Your whole group lesson, you're really teaching them all those comprehension strategies and skills. But when they're in the small group, the focus for beginning readers is teaching them how to monitor their reading and understanding how to make sense of that text with using those cueing strategies. As soon as they get to a 14, 16, I'm going to shift my focus to all those comprehension strategies. So
In your book,
I'm still doing comprehension, I'm doing it at the sentence word level.
Well, I'm picturing my low group.
Okay?
And I'm picturing me giving them a book, we talk about it for 2 minutes, and then say, here you go. I can't see them being successful because they're on, with me, a 4 or a 6. I can't even, those are the kids that you have to sit
We do
there.
the
and-
same thing in kindergarten.
So is it successful? I mean, I'm
Yes.
not about trying it, I will try it, I
Yes.
just keep thinking,
Okay,
oh
so
my God,
here's what I
I
have
see
to
these poor babies.
here's what I keep saying. The reason you do the DRA is to find out where they are. They read the DRA cold.
So you give them a book on or below their level, or you challenge them?
I'm doing their instructional level. So same thing, just like I did with him. You want a 1-sentence intro, and we're going to practice that. I want you to come up and be able to say, all right, so here's the book. I love Sally's Spaceship. This is how I would do it. You're my first graders. This is a 6. Today we're going to read Sally's Spaceship. It's about a little girl who has a wonderful imagination, and she plans a trip to outer space. She wants to play like she's going to outer space. There's a couple words I want to show you. I usually write my words on that I would implant on sentence strips. So I'm going to say, I don't think there are any words I need to implant in here. If I've done, get your mouth ready, look at the picture, because everything in here is picture supported. So you've got to look through the words and say, what word might they not know that might not be picture supported at a 6? I'm already giving them spaceship. Sally's Spaceship. I'm going to see what they can do. So I might do my mini lesson of get your mouth ready, read to the end, come back and say what would make sense. So I'm going to do some of those mini lessons. Yeah, then I'm going to go off and say, okay, go. Yeah, they do it.
Okay.
They do it.
Oral reading, echo reading.
Not, we do when they're an A or a 2 or a 3 in kindergarten. We might do the first couple of pages, but not in first grade.
so they're all reading out loud-ish together?
At different times,
At different times,
rates.
okay.
Do you ever have them partner read at the back table with you? So like you're sitting there and you say, read this to your friend and then...
So what you could do, sometimes,
I
but
have them do that when, like in the Reading Response Center, sometimes there's...
I like the partner reading,
So that I let them
absolutely.
partner read almost every day, so...
I think
they're
that's great.
trained
We've
to
started doing that
read.
every morning instead of morning work. We're doing partner reading.
That's what I have them do when they respond. They don't
But then
respond
this
together.
book is going to be used the next day, and they're going to read it again the next day.
Up at the
At
beginning where it says
at the
fluency.
beginning of my lesson, they're going to read this. And usually what we do is, if we have a book a day, they might reread 2 books that they've had, plus go through their high frequency words. Then this book will go into their, and I know Lynette, you saw this in the front, they all had, in the first grade classrooms, Leah Walsh's class, the first grade we went into, she had baskets at the front with books in it, and that's where all these books came from. These are books they've already read, and so they were in their basket that they could go and reread at any time. Another one had them in bags. So it's always rereading, but if I do 1 book for a week, I'm not exposing them to enough problem solving. They need to do more.
So after they have read it independently, out loudish, and you're listening,
And they probably will read it too. By the time they go through it, I mean, it goes pretty fast. He probably would have gotten through it 2 or 3 times by the time I would have said stop.
Oh, okay, so you would like,
So I'll be listening in to each kid, and here's the goal. You just keep on reading. You're never done. No one says, I'm done. They just go back to the beginning and read it again.
okay.
So that they're reading it 2 or 3 times. Same thing the next day. So maybe on the 3rd day, I would do a running record on it. I mean, by the time,
So
if he
then-
would have read it 10 times,
If you're
he should have been darn perfect.
If you're filling this out, at the end, you're talking to them about, hey, CJ, look, let me show you what I
Right.
noticed that you
Right.
did. And then,
Right.
hey, Sally, this is what I
That's right.
noticed that you
Right.
did. So that's your after part. And
Right.
it's just verbally with your kids.
Yes.
Are you ever writing anything down?
Yeah. Like
Not on a running record, just in a notebook?
You can just on a notebook.
Okay.
Or sometimes on my lesson plans. Like right there on the
So on
lesson
your
plans,
plan?
where it says after, that's where I'm writing down. Or during, that's where I'm writing down.
So
What do I
you're,
notice?
so when you turn this into your administration, these are blank until, I'm just trying to think of.
Yes.
Okay,
I mean, the beginning wouldn't. I always write my 1-sentence intro and my words
Sure,
that I'm going
right.
to implant right there.
and
Then
then,
I've got to say, what am I noticing after? And then it might be, I'm just going to do a brief, so tell me what happened to this story.
okay,
And that's that, if it takes longer than 60 seconds to retell this story, I'm beating a dead horse.
sure.
And that's not the purpose of this.
So then Tuesday, you read this on Monday, so then Tuesday that moves up to your fluency.
You bet.
Okay.
We're gonna
And then you've
reread.
got a new book, or
Right.
your new read.
Yes,
So
And then
when
that-
how often
those-
do you cycle?
Both books could go up on Wednesday.
So
yes.
they get to pick which book they didn't read Wednesday, or just whatever?
Yeah, I'd say, okay, here, start reading.
Okay.
Yep.
And then do you give them fresh sets each week then? So like you have a new book every day?
Yes.
So then Friday you take them and do that?
Yep.
Uh-huh. Well, but these
I'll
are-
tell you, I had a new kindergarten
And that's
teacher. She came from
what I-
another school, and the first day we were planning before school started, and I told her we're going to do a book a day. She burst into tears. And I said, Allison, what's the matter? And she goes, but I've always done one book for the whole week, and I've planned all my lessons with this one book, and we did different things with it the whole week. And I said, no, sweetheart, you're going to do a book a day. It'll get okay. I will
So
help you.
do we not implement the sentence structure? Because like in the centers, we have them cut up sentences so that they can reread the sentence and figure out how to put the sentence in order. We don't do all that stuff. Like
Tell
in
me
their
why you're doing,
independent-
okay, tell me what you're doing again?
If we had cut up sentences, I see a boy, they had to put their out of order, they could put them in order. So they have to find
So
it in
then-
the book.
They don't have to find it from a book, they should be able to just do it from syntactic structures.
This is true.
I wouldn't want them finding it in a book. I want them to see if they could do it. Do they understand syntactic structure to do that? No, we do cut up sentences.
So
At the beginning of the year,
Just
not from a book.
year.
At the beginning of the year,
You
they
can
wouldn't be
find
doing
those
that now.
what
That's
are they
easy for
doing
now.
in centers whenever by themselves?
I wish Lynette was in here because she saw them all. Let's see, they're doing different things. One group in all 3 classes, this was an amazing one. This was a higher group. You want to see higher or lower?
Well, both.
Both? All right, so.
Now, when you say high, you're thinking high first grade, like.
High first grade, or it could be, we're doing the same thing in 2nd grade. Let's see where I did with that. That
How I
white
spend my
board.
money.
That's your job to keep track. I can't keep track of those things. All right, so this was a good one, and I saw this in a first grade class, and I said, oh, we're going to do this in 2nd grade and 3rd grade because it was such a good thing. I come up with this thing inductively. It's called a thinking mat, but they did it for independent work. So thinking mat looks like this. It just says the word thinking mat here. All right, then they had a sentence up here, and here. There were 4 sentences because they were using context clues. This was a high group. So it might have said, I walked to school. And the word walked was underlined. And then they had a bunch of cards over here that said, Sue strolled to the park 2 blocks away. And they had to sort all these cards. Does strolled mean the same as walked? Did it mean the same as this, this? So I walked in and there was a whole group of them. They were reading their cards and they were sorting them. This was their second task. And then they had an organizer that they had to tell what each one of these words meant based on the clue that they used. So that was a task because we've been doing context clues. They had a book.
And that doesn't go with any of their books, that just goes,
No.
that's just,
Context clues, goes with any book. You've got to be able to figure out context clues. They have a book task. The book task generally goes with whatever you've been teaching whole group. So let's say we've been doing characters. They've been learning about character feelings and traits, something to do with characters. So their book task might be, read this book. I'm trying to explain, Lynette, the different tasks.
okay.
So I don't know if you remember how much you took with tasks, but help me to kind of remember those. So read the different tasks, and then they might have an organizer that they were completing. How did the characters feel? So it might have been, look at page 5. After reading to page 5, who was the main character? How did they feel? There were some of those kinds of things. So there was always a book task going on, something that you were responding to, and this is independent level. So they're not doing stuff with the books that they're reading in small group, no. The tasks are not tied to that. They're tied to what else do they need. They had a word study task. Some kids were doing, they had onsets and rhyme because they were working on ending, blends, and digraphs. And they had to put them together, and they were saying whether these were real words or not, Dr. Seuss words. So they had to put them together, read them, and then write them underneath the right heading. Another group of kids were sorting their words, and then after they were sorting them, they were writing them on a sheet that said first chunk, second chunk, blended, new chunk, blended. So if the word was trip, they would put T-R-I-P, trip. Then they had to do a new chunk, coal, make a new if, and then make the new word, clip. So some kids were doing that with their word study words. Some kids were doing, we had writing, there was some writing going on. I've found a lot of concept books, like I think they were doing the book, they've done the Book of Bad Ideas. They were doing, I can't remember what else they've done. But they had little mini books that they were working on, so they were doing some writing. Here's the goal. You have a reading task, a writing task, a word study task, and then they usually have an extra one. This might be something with the word wall. It might be something like grammar. It might be go to the library. They might have something that they wanted on the computer specifically for them to do, not just sit there, but something specifically on the computer. And then they always have their bucket of books that they go back and reread. So the reading task is always on their independent level with a new read. The writing, it can be a variety of things. We do a variety of different writing things in kindergarten and first grade. Word studies always to reinforce what they're doing. Could be, sometimes this could be read a decodable reader and do a word hunt. So we like, at the beginning of the year, we do the cut-up sentences, but they're not from a book. It's just to say, do you know syntax of a sentence? So they might have sentences that they would have to write down, and then we always want them to draw a picture to make sure they understood what it said. So it might be, I see 3 cats. So it's going to be just, do you know that structure of a sentence? And then they would just draw their picture over here. But it doesn't have to do with the book we've been doing. Does that make sense? Do you remember any others, Lynette?
I was checking my phone. All I see is the individual color sheets where
they were coloring with their tasks.
I took several pictures of those and had like a blind sort.
Yeah.
More variety sorts.
Yeah. And they were doing a reading task, a writing task, and it just depended. I mean, in every class you can see different things going on based on the levels.
It's like a menu of tasks. And
Yeah.
I remember, can see it, but I didn't take a picture.
Yeah, it was a menu
They
of tasks.
actually listed on their little stands what activities in each.
And the kids were all just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They were just all doing it. So it just depends. So the ultimate goal for your kids is read, 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 read. New books, new books, new books. Because otherwise they're not getting exposed to as much text as they need to get exposed to. So we want to increase that amount of text that they get exposed to. Other thoughts? All right. So I think, how is doing it on this sheet?
I like this sheet.
Yes, I like that it's not just the running records, there is other information there.
Yeah, because
What
the
they're
whole
tending
point
to
is,
and
what's the running record
bigger picture.
telling you? Yeah, that's what we want them to do. All right, so let's take a look at then teaching high-frequency words. So to me, kindergarten, first grade, high-frequency words are huge, even in second grade. And I forget, what do you guys use Fry or Dolce?
There's no systematic.
Okay, so the first thing I would suggest is you pick one and do one or the other school-wide, so that you've got similar lists. We use the Fry list, so that's what we're going to take a look at with the Fry list. We're going to come back to this one, so just put this to the side where it says monitoring reading. We're going to come back to this. All right, because how long do I have you all till? 10:45. So another hour. Because we might want to do, I'd love to do another running record. Do you want to do the other running record too?
Sure.
Okay, we can. I just want, let me do the high frequency words and then we'll go get them. All right, so let's talk high frequency words. There's two ways you're going to do this. I'm going to start with how I would teach them to emergent learners. Did you guys have in first grade, did you have any kids come in lower than an independent 4?
Yes.
Okay, so at the beginning of the year, you're going to use this one with how to teach it to high frequency words, and then you can change to beginning learners. Because this is how we do it in kindergarten. And I think this is big. I think everyone wants to teach high frequency, the same high frequency words to all kids. In kindergarten, we don't teach them all at the same time. In first grade, we do. If I've got kids that are low, then I've got to do it this way in first grade. So we took the top 100 Fry words and we looked at the books and we said, wow, there are certain words that are used over and over and over again in these lower books. And we divided the 100 high frequency words into groups of 10 and said these 10 first, then these 10, then these 10. And we put them into simple sentences along with the word in isolation. So it's going to follow the same directions. So this would be day 1. If I've got kids that are emergent learners, you would start with just the sentence cards. And you're going to say, I'm going to read this sentence and I'm going to touch each word as I say it. I see a dog. You're going to ask the children to follow along and touch each sentence as you do it. You read the sentence, then they echo read. Echo reading is more supportive than choral reading, so we always do echo read first. So they go, I see a dog. They echo it. All right, flip it over. Let's go to the next one. I can run. Echo. So we're going to go through the whole set of 10 doing an echo read. Then we're going to read the cards together. Let's read it together. I see a dog. Flip it over. I can run. That's it for day 1. Then you're going to go to day 2. Again, you're going to give the sentence cards out. And I'm going to do echo and choral reading just like I did the first day. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it, then you read it. Now let's read them together. That's it. Day 3, I'm going to give it to them and say, let's read these together. Now I'm taking away the support of echo reading. Let's read it together. I see a dog. We're going to just read it chorally a couple times. Now, see if you can read them on your own. By now, they should be able to read them on their own because you've read them so much. You listen in and provide support where needed. On day 4, we are going to give the sentences. They're going to read the sentences several times. Then we're going to give them the word cards to see if they can read the word out of context.
Do you take the sentences away?
Not at first. I see a dog. What's word number 1? I want them to have the sentence there if they need it. They're going to go, oh, it's the word see. You're right. Now let's turn them both over. So we're going to go through, read the sentences, and read the words. Then I want them to try on their own. What people forget in teaching high-frequency words is if you teach them in isolation, they have nothing to hold back, to go back to. And that's how we used to teach them. We used to just put them on cards and flash them at the kids and expect them to just memorize them by sight. That's the least effective way. It's in context, out of context, back in context. That's how they remember them. So by day 5, I want them to read this, then I want them to read this. If they can read the words in isolation, they're ready for the next 10. If they can't, then I would do another week with this same set. So my kindergartners, my lowest kindergartners who came in knowing nothing, not their name, not their letters, not their sounds, I think they're on their 5th set of 10 of high frequency words. We spent the first part of the year doing concept of word every single day. Now we're doing high frequency words. My top kindergartners already know all 100 words. Because that's the expectation, to know the first 100 by the end of kindergarten. All right, this looks different than what I would do with beginning learners. So I put, this is the check sheet we use. We just write the kids' names there. Read those words to me. I'm going to check to see what you know, to see if I'm ready to go on. The other thing that we do with young ones, and I forgot to go get a set of these from one of my kindergarten rooms. This year, we decided I made all these up to go with all the words, and I ran them off on cardstock, cut them up, and then I put them in coin envelopes so that each kid would have a set of 10 coin envelopes, and I wanted them to build them. So we took them out, and then we would do this the next week. Let's take, it's just a little envelope that I could put the letters in to hold the word. You know, like a little coin envelope, it's just a little
Coin
envelope.
collectors would keep their coins in.
It's just a little like manila envelope.
Okay.
And so these were on cardstock and then cut up, and then those letters were inside of one of the envelopes.
Okay.
And then we wrote the word on the outside of the envelope. So we could say, okay, everybody, what's this first word? C. Let's take your letters out. Turn your envelope over. See if you can build the word C. Turn your envelope over. Did you get it right or do you need to fix it? Great. Now let's do the next one. What's the word? Can. Take the letters out. Can you build it? So now, not only are they reading it, but they're building it. Then what we did was, now that the kids, the higher kids have the top 100 known, now they have them on their little, we expect them to write them correctly. So we made little individual word walls for each of the 300. So as they learn them, they can use these when they're writing. And we can do different things with these miniature. These are not the word walls that are up in the room. That comes from writing. Because you'd never have 100 up there at this point of the year. That'd be too many. All right, so this was a biggie that we added this year.
Can you say that again about the word wall?
Where do word wall words come from? They should come from your writing. So when we're doing writer's workshop and I'm sitting revising and editing with you, man, I'm noticing everybody's spelling the word friend incorrectly. Their spelling was incorrectly, very. You put 3 to 5 words up a week on your word wall for writing.
And then you take them down, or you leave them
No, I
up?
leave them up.
You build it on it.
You
And
build
said
it.
it would be, 100 would be too many?
Well, if I do 3 to 5, maybe by the end of the year I can get up there. 30, maybe I'd get there. You don't run it by now.
Up on your word wall?
They have a different space for content words.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You could mix
Mine
them
are all
up.
mixed up too.
Mine are
I mean,
separated.
they're
Not much
separated,
space
but they're
here.
mixed up.
They might be different
Yeah.
colors, some
Yeah.
put different
Right.
colors.
Okay.
One of my teachers puts them up on, we've got cabinets, and he just writes them on the cabinets with,
Uh-huh.
they do have a variety, but the high-frequency words are those words that they misspell in their writing,
Okay.
which is different than learning them in reading.
Right, okay.
All right, so then there's how do I teach them to beginning readers? This is what I really want you guys to focus in on, because you guys all have beginning readers. So this is how we do it. So here's the first 100. This is done one-on-one, and if you've got an assistant, it's great to use an assistant for this, or a parent volunteer. I don't know if you have any additional support at all. I help my teachers with this. So we sit down one-on-one and have the kids just read through these. Not in kindergarten, but in first grade or second grade. Which ones do you know? Which ones do you not know? So I went and grabbed Katarine's. This was her first set. So the first time we checked her, these were the first 10 she did not know. And then I put the word on the back. So we typed them up. They go in her bag. Every day she reads through these in that first part of the lesson plan. That's part of what they read through. Because it's all about word automaticity. When we rechecked her, pink was my second color. This was when I rechecked her. This was the next 10 that she needed. This was her third
So
10.
you had her read this to you until she missed 10?
Yep, and then I stopped.
And then you stopped her?
And then I said, give me a sentence. So
Okay.
these are her
Her
sentences.
sentences.
This was her last one. And I think she is on, I don't know where she is. She's in, I think, the third
And you
100.
just keep filling her back, so she's got both words by now.
Yeah, that's what she's got by now. There's 40 in there.
Okay.
So, because they come up knowing some of them, so there's no reason to go one, which ones do you not know by sight? And then I'm going to give you your 10. So I would say about a third of my first graders know all 300. Maybe more. No, about a third know all 300. They're all within the second and third 100.
How specific are you with the speed? Because I've tested kids before.
If they don't know them within 5 seconds, you give it to them and they can count it as an unknown.
Okay. Because I'll move on to the next word and they say, no, I know that word, and they'll say it, and I'm like, it took you too long.
Right,
So
5 seconds.
correct.
You give it to them after 5 seconds.
Okay.
So if they don't know it, then it's got to be
I
like
try to
this.
sound it out, I'm
No,
like, that's
no,
not
no,
the
no,
point of this.
No. And high-frequency words are different than sight words.
Right.
You want high-frequency words to become sight words. You all know in first grade, because you give the PAL screening, that when you're tested at the end of the year and you're doing those words flashed in isolation, those are sight words. They are not high-frequency words. So where do they get those words? They get them from books. They take books that are a DRA 14, 16, and they take words out of there, like the word picnic, or house, or pony. Those are not high-frequency words, they're sight words. Two different things. And Susan and I were talking about this and saying, a lot of teachers don't understand the difference between the two, and that's why they don't do well on the PAL screening. That little flash, that gets a lot of our kids, and that's why they identify at the end of the year. Huh?
That's why a lot of our kids are ID'd at the end of the year.
Because you're not
Sight
doing,
words.
because you're not doing sight words. You're doing high-frequency words, but you're not doing sight words.
So these are high-frequency words.
These are high-frequency words. These, not knowing these, will keep their DRA level down. Because you need these to keep moving up. So I always say we attack high-frequency words. So how is this different than what you might do with high-frequency words?
We play games like Crash or,
Yeah, it's always words in isolation.
yeah.
It's got to be in context. Then you can take them out and play all kinds of games once they know them. If they don't know them, just putting them on cards is the least effective way.
Right.
You want them in context and then out, then back in. Make sense?
We have like the fry statements that we put into the game.
We have those.
But even
So,
before.
but yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm
And
just saying.
so when we get to the fry phrases,
Yeah.
but not until they know all the words. Because the whole point of the fry phrases was now to help you, assist you in reading in phrases. So it's putting them in their sentences, then taking them out. So my second grade teachers still have to do this with some of their kids.
I'm thinking we're all going to do
You have to get it in.
With our other, like my 100 number, my low group yet.
Yeah, if your high group, if you've got kids reading at a 28, they don't need this. It's those other ones that need this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said that the child gave you those sentences.
Right, and I described it.
Okay. And are you assessing every child each week on?
Oh no, this is like only 4 times and it's been where are we at in the year. So they keep these for like maybe 3 weeks because I really want them to know them automatically.
Okay.
Then we'll reassess.
Okay.
Yeah, because it takes time.
Yeah, I was like.
It takes
so
too much
every
time.
week
No,
I'm
you're not,
typing up
absolutely no.
sentences for each kid in my
Absolutely not.
class.
No.
Okay.
No, if you do it, I mean, this is like once every 6 weeks,
Okay.
just because that's all we can get to it.
Okay, I feel a little better.
No, that's why there's only 4 of them in here. Because in the meanwhile, we're also doing our sight words. So it's just, the whole goal in 1st grade and 2nd grade is expose them to as many words as you possibly can. Expose. Yeah. No. Oh, good Lord, no. You never did that. So here are the 300. The goal is by the end of the year, they know all 300 of these by the end of 1st grade. That's the goal.
Okay.
And if they know all 300, you almost are guaranteed that they're going to be a DRA 14, 16 by the end of the year.
Is there a general?
Have you been doing this all year?
Is there a general hierarchy, like how many a good reader who's on level should know by the end of each grade level, K1, 2, or is there a standard kind of?
You know, I don't want to say they have to know all 100 by the end of kindergarten, but they should know 50 or more by the end of kindergarten, so that they can, I want them knowing all these by the end of 1st grade.
all 300 now.
All 300.
Don't get your hopes up just so yet. We just got it.
I mean, that's going to be the goal. Sure. Because high-frequency words are such a part of kindergarten and 1st grade.
Right.
And so the more you do it, the better. The more you do it, the better.
So when you do sight word work, since it's different?
I'm going to show you.
Okay. That's in kindergarten.
So like Clint, one of my 2nd grade teachers, he's got some low kids in his class. They're on the last 300. But when he did them at the beginning of the year, he's not a typer. He doesn't type them out. He just has sentence strips and he writes it out
As he
goes.
That's what I would do.
So don't feel you have to type
Did
them
you hear
up.
that, London?
What?
They don't, not all of them type them up.
She
Some of
said
them just,
on a sentence strip, they write them out and then hand it to them right away. So
and write the word on the back. So give me your sentence.
I can totally see sentence strips happening in my room.
I can see it not, I mean, I sit there with my computer and type what they wrote into like a format that's
Yeah, it's
already
easy.
pre-made and then printed.
It's very easy.
But I just was like, every week?
No, not every week.
Oh my God.
Someone else, I don't know if I brought the sample, yeah.
I'm not gonna sentence strip.
You can do it on small cards, put them on a ring,
Yeah.
you know, however you want to do it. Whatever's going to be easiest. I mean, because if you go, oh, good Lord, I just can't do that, then write them out. Doesn't matter, as long as they can read them, doesn't matter.
Sure.
Just want them reading it.
What if they say a really long word or?
Pardon me?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, well, like Tyrannosaurus Rex or something like that. I mean, and if they repeat it, the word was, you know, I was.
Well, and this was a question that came up. Do you correct their grammar? And I'm like, yes.
Right, right, but I mean, when they.
And if they say, I can't think of a sentence, and I'll start with, I was, and then they'll give it to me. But we've never had really ridiculous sentences. It hasn't been an issue.
And they were able to read the other words that they said.
Yes.
I'm
Yes. You know, that goes back to all their study on language experience, that they remember what they wrote. That's why there's the power in those sentences, because they remember what they wrote. All right, so that's high frequency words. Let's talk about the difference between those and sight words, because there's a difference. And that was one of the things that came up we needed to clarify.
No, you
already did last week's word, because it was.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
we need the other one too. This is the only one we do have. The high frequency.
You need a queuing,
Queuing, and then the high frequency.
Oh, you have
No, I don't have her.
So we need the high frequency and the acute one.
Thank you.
And this, if you have the small group
Yeah.
plan.
I just wasn't sure if she was
Do
going
you
to
have
do
this
rather than
online?
one.
Yeah.
I just emailed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
I know last time she didn't have enough copies. Was there anything else that we wanted to add to our list of?
Yeah, all the cell phones.
Susan, do you have the, Beth's?
That's okay.
Do you have these electronically copied?
They're those high words for emergent learners. High frequency words for emergent learners.
For the next year, every kid is required to bring us a calculator card, so.
All right,
Let's get the list.
so let's take a look at the difference between the two, because there's a clear difference. Sight words come from the text that they're reading. And I tell my teachers, start slow, because I want you to do this, but start slow. Because know if you don't do this, then they are not going to, we're going to qualify lots for PALS. Because they flash those words in 0.5 seconds. So if this is my book, I'm going to use Sam's Picnic, then I've got to decide, I might take 3 to 5 words from this story and put it on cards that they've got to recognize out of context. So I might take river and picnic and maybe cloud. And maybe cloud. I'm going to take 3 words out of here and put them on cards. This is what I always say. My daughter is a teacher in my building, and I told you this. Didn't I tell you all this? Oh, she's a teacher in my building, and she's taught 5th grade. She taught 5th grade for 3 years. Then there was an opening in 1st grade last year, and she went to the principal and said, I'd really like to go see what it's like to teach how to read. You know, because by 5th grade, it's so different. So my principal said, great, there's an opening, you can go down to 1st grade. And I said to her, she's all excited, I said, you're going to work really hard. It's going to be way different because you don't have the big content push. The math is nothing compared to 5th grade math, but reading is going to consume you. And it did. It consumed her. Everything she did was reading. And I said, this is where you have to spend your time. She stayed there 1 year. She's back in 5th grade with all the SOL tests. She said, it was good, but I like all the other stuff too. I mean, because this is all you do. You have to get them playing words. So I tell my teachers, start with 2 stories a week that you harvest words out of. You've got to take 3 to 5 words from a story twice a week. And they just go into a bag. And they've got to know those automatically before they go in their bag. One of my teachers did this, and I thought this was a cute idea. It's a word bank. We call these word banks. These are the words they know. These are the words they almost know. So we've gotten smart. If I'm a teacher and I say, ooh, I'm going to make the cards for Sam's Picnic, it's very easy. We've got the templates with 12 words on it, and I'm just going to put 3, 3, 3, and 3. I'm going to put the master for these within the bag, kind of like whoever's done stuff with this. It's going to go right in the bag. So that if she uses Sam's Picnic, she's already got the words for Sam's Picnic. It's kind of like with the text copies, like your text copies. We put the text copies in a plastic sleeve with the book, so that everybody has access to a text copy if they want to. Same thing with the word bank words, so that no one's repeating the work. So words I know, these are the words from the story that we put down, and Andy was able to say, I can read that in isolation. They go here. If he doesn't quite have it, it goes in words I almost know. Well, when you reread the book again the next day, now do you know the word in isolation? If you do, it goes over here. So this is less, but it's got to be done a couple times a week because that's the kind of word they're going to be taking. And they have to They have to know in 0.5 seconds out of context in order to do well. It's what you're checking in PALS when you do those lists in isolation. You know, they've got the pre-primer list, the primer list, the first grade list. Those are not high frequency words, those are sight words. Sight words come from books at that level. So that's where they get those words. And so you have to do something with them. We play all kinds of games with our sight words. They all have word banks. Everything about first grade is words, words, words. Just everything. So when you have a word bank, these are just all different things you could do. Read your words with a buddy. This could be something that you do as one of your tasks. Get your word bank. Use some to make a sentence. Fill in the missing words. Write it down on a piece of paper. We've made concentration games with them. We've done them on bingo sheets. This is one of their favorites. It's called Parking Lot. It's the parking lot where they put one of their words face down. We blow this up on 11 by 17, and then we just put them face down. So they've got, you can put down 12. You can put 2 on each one. And then every time they roll a dice, if they get a 1, then they turn a card over and read it. If they read it correctly, they get to move it off their parking lot. The first person with empty parking places wins. Very easy. I could do this with word study. I could do this with high frequency words. I could do this with their sight words. So we play all kinds of games. The text copies are always good because then you've got those words in there. Just tons of ways that you can play with them. But that's got to be separate from high frequency words.
And all this is like in this fluency part of your lesson
It is.
plan?
Well, you're going to introduce those words down here. You could put them down here, you could put them up here after they've read it again, you could put it up here, you know, so you could show it, like once you've read a book, and let's say he read that book at the track, like a couple times down here. You could say, does anybody know these 3 words from the book?
Okay. And
Well, we're gonna
they
read
don't
again
have
tomorrow.
to be words that don't match pictures?
No.
Okay, because earlier you said, like, when you would introduce...
No, they don't have to
Okay.
be those,
Okay.
no. But you don't want it to be the high frequency words. You want it to
Okay.
be the sight words,
Okay.
which would be typical first grade words. I know, it just seems so odd that they do that, but they treat them so separately, that they do them, you know, completely separately. All right, so thought about word banks. Word banks, high frequency words.
Do you have a dedicated assistant in your first grade classroom?
No. What we do have is, because we don't have any identified special education students in first grade, is there's a special education assistant that they gave us to her for 1 hour a day, and she supports with high frequency words.
Okay.
Because we just don't have any kids that are ID'd. Which is really nice. Do you have someone that does?
We were just thinking of, you know, how to fit it all in, the 24 hours that we have.
I know. We don't have anybody in second grade.
Right.
So in first grade, she gets 1 hour in there.
Okay.
Do you have any volunteers ever? I know, we don't either. Very few.
That is put in your room for behavior purposes, and it takes the teacher to parent the parent and the kid at the same time while trying to teach reading.
Then you don't want that.
Yeah.
All right, so first grade, what are you thinking?
We're a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, and here's what I want you to do. Take one piece. One piece. Because I can overwhelm, let me tell you. Just take one thing.
I don't want to keep doing the things that you have said are ineffective, which is a majority of what I'm doing.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm doing cut-up sentences, I'm focusing
Cut-up
on
sentences are fine, it's just it doesn't have to go with
The text.
the text.
Okay.
So quit making those. You do.
Okay, so I could do word bank stuff, or I could do like cut-up sentences with high frequency words or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you do cut-up sentences every week?
Yeah. I mean, our lesson plans are very routine that we do similar activities for a book on each set day. I mean, we do cut up sentences, we do vocabulary, which is basically like, it's not high frequency words, it's a word bank kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But they end up using those words in a sentence and writing that sentence into a journal, and I don't know if that's effective, and our word wall is all high frequency words. Our word wall is not
For writing.
for writing. Our word walls, yeah. So, and they don't have high frequency words that are on their independent level. So a lot of what you're suggesting haven't even been in our repertoire at all. So I don't want to
So what's
keep
one
doing
thing
stuff.
that you could change?
I think there's two things.
Okay, what are your two big things you'd like to
More
change?
books and the reading.
Oh, yeah.
More books and the
That
reading.
lesson plan like that's gonna
Yeah.
be easy.
I think
I
the
think-
sentence strips would be pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
I think that would be easy to check where,
Yeah.
what do you know?
And the cueing strategies. That's what I'm seeing. Anything
And
that
more
happens
running
at our
records.
table
We
is
should do more running records.
easy for us to change. What all of us are like mind blown is like what they're doing
Get independent
independently.
work.
Because we make our independent work very consistent. It's very repetitive
Right,
so that
They can do it.
we don't have to spend a lot of time
Right.
teaching how to do activities.
We don't have to come away from our table
to go do.
correct.
And I agree. So then that would be the last thing you would want to change.
Okay, and that's where I'm like, well, maybe next year at the beginning of the year, that's when we
We could really focus. Well, and we've got that day in August. And so, it's 3 days, so it's probably going to be K1 together, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I'm envisioning. So maybe that's the day we really say, let's talk about independent work. What would the independent work look like? What do we want as our goal for that? I mean, that's really wide open. Do we want to do a make and take? Do we want to get some stuff made? What do we really want to focus in on?
Okay.
Because I want that to be what you need.
Because it's really good ideas. It's just overwhelming because like, when am I saying? But like those little words I know, words I almost know, that's awesome. But when am I going to make all those right now? That's what I'm
I
saying. I need like,
So I think
I
all
know.
this stuff is
To
stuff we
be-
could definitely.
yeah,
Use.
yes.
Yeah.
And start with the high frequency words, but just know that those sight words, that will be rearing its head when you do your PAL screening.
I think we can actually just go back and pull our old vocabularies that they've known, because all the kids had looked through it, and then go back and
Oh, and just
See
use
what
that?
See what they know, if they know
see
them or
if they
not.
know.
Okay.
Because we're not reinventing the wheel, but it's already from our books.
So yeah, when you
Yes.
start thinking about it, if you have 4 groups, not with your top ones, so maybe 2 groups that are below 16 and below, 2 or 3 groups that are below 16. Your top group, you might do a book for a week, the same book. And they're doing a different plan. They're doing the transitional plan. They're not doing the beginning reader plan. So the focus is different. It's those beginning readers that it's all about the words, and you want to do a book a day. Because you're exposing them to it. And don't try and make the activities match that book.
Okay.
You don't need to. They can be very open-ended.
Well, because our push has always been for everything to be very differentiated, and so
Right.
we use the book as a jump-off point.
Because it's their level
Right.
already.
Right.
Right. So you can still give them another independent book to be reading. So let's say I'm working with them on a DRA 8, then the independent book I'm giving is going to be a 6.
That's what I do in my room since we met last. I literally have stacks of books from the book room, so every day in their journal, like that journal that she pulled out, on their task sheet it says the book, and it's separate than the book I'm doing at the back table with them. But we always talk about them both at the same time. So the book that you read by yourselves, what happened? And they'll all talk about it, we talk about what they had to do in their journal, and then we also hit on the book that I'm using to teach their skill with. And they've actually handled it well. I thought it was going to be a struggle for them because they are so low, but they can tell you the difference between the two, which one they like the most. If they didn't like that story, they like this story. They're doing well with it.
Yeah, they need to be exposed to so much text.
Okay.
That would be a big, I want you to, this is how I always am. I pitch here. So you have to decide where you are and what you can, within sane reason, put into place.
Well, if you ask us, we'd all like to pitch here too. So it's very difficult for us
I know,
to
but
go,
I don't
well,
want
maybe
you to
not today.
I don't want you to feel like you have to, I'm offering you a variety of things to look at.
Okay.
Because there's obviously a reason why Bryan Elementary is a,
So many
yeah,
struggles.
because when I hear your numbers, I'm thinking, okay, this is not equating with then what's occurring in your testing. There's a disconnect here, so where's the disconnect?
Okay.
You know?
We're really just cheating on our DRAs.
And I have a question too about the ERAs and all that stuff. Nothing was mentioned about the comprehension. And again, that's where you said that's where we're cheating on them. So they're.
You know how we do with but we're still teaching comprehension. We do a
Well,
lot
that's
whole group, we do like they're already doing, in kindergarten, my kids are doing written retellings right now. They're doing a written retelling. I took them in,
But of a whole group book that you read aloud
Right.
to them, not something.
right,
And
because
at
they
this
can't
point, it can
yet.
all be guided.
Okay.
At their age and all, it can all be guided. I mean, every
My
bit of
first
that.
graders are doing
Because you're just
written
giving those
retellings
exposures
at every
we get.
level. Even if they're a 6 or an 8, we would have modeled what does a retelling look like. In fact, I think we do retellings in August, or in October. So we would have
Your
done
school, a much higher school.
socioeconomically, do you mean? We're about the same size numerically with our number of children.
About the grades, I mean,
Well, I think socioeconomic would probably play, that would be where people would start to look at. Like, do you have, how much are for your reduced lunch?
We're right, almost 45%.
And so that's a big difference, but.
But I,
Because that, if you ask the wonderful people at Cambridge, they'll tell you actually,
at where?
the people who are coming to do our audit.
It does matter,
It does matter.
but instruction also matters.
Right, no.
You know, I'm convinced because we have schools that are 99% free and reduced lunch in Virginia Beach that are not a focus school or a priority school. So instruction does matter. It does matter. I think what matters too is I think more of our schools are going to be in problems because they've not reacted to the change in the SOL test. The new SOL test is very rigorous, extremely rigorous. Everyone saw huge jumps last year.
Right.
And I'm like, well, have you changed your instruction this year? Because if you haven't changed your instruction, how is it going to go up? It's not. It's still going to be as rigorous. You know, they're expected, 4th and 5th graders had 7 passages to read in one sitting with lots of questions. So that's huge. That's huge. So the primary grades, we have always focused in my building on K2 because we are proactive. If you take care of K2, 3, 4, and 5 follow. My problem right now is because they rezoned us and we got a lot of new children, that now I've got more issues in 3, 4, and 5 because they came from another school and they've not been teaching the way we've been teaching, and so it's like I'm pedaling to catch up. The other thing is we don't identify many children with having a learning disability because it's a huge number. It's like 60 or 70% of all identified children with a learning disability are school-induced, which means our teaching is what's causing this issue. So there's so many things to it. I want you to pick and choose those things that you feel you can handle for the rest of this year. If it's the high-frequency words, if it's more books that you're going to be bringing them into, and it's the cueing strategies, I think that's 3 really good things. Anything more than 3 is overwhelming. The other thing you might look at is if you can get more time, even up to 25 minutes a group, that would be phenomenal. And that might be where you talk to 2nd grade, where you talk to Mike and say, is there any way we can get 5 more minutes per group? 20 extra minutes that I can give to that small group. And then, you know, as we plan for next year, what are the things that we really would want to put in place? And then, you know, you can only change so much. It's like when I go into a new teacher, I always just say, here are 3 things, let's just try these 3 things. Or some people I say, let's just try these 2 things. Because you can't change everything at once. It's too much, it's too much. All right, so what are you guys going to take away from what we've done this morning? Because I've got a little more, sure, just to put you over the top really well.
This is really good.
might already be there.
Just to make sure you're hanging by your toenails, I'm going to give you one more thing that we could do.
This is gonna help my low skirt. I so many ways that you do look Pinterest and look up, all these different things to look up, and you just handed me everything that I could try and find myself, that I can do with them, easily, right here.
Incorporating the high-frequency words instead of word cards.
In context.
context.
That's new to me, to teach it. I mean, it makes sense, it makes such sense, but nobody's ever said that.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
and given us just a step-by-step instruction, day one, day two, like what they think you're supposed to do, and then they just hand you the card and say go. They don't give you the list of how to do it.
Yeah, I've been writing a lot of directions lately. My friends in Newport News, I've been working with them for a long time, and a lot of this is what we've been trying to do with their whole division, which is really big when you think of a division. They're about the size that you guys are. So, and it's starting to make a shift, you know? It takes time. It takes time to make a shift. All right, I do want to go back to this one. This was in the queuing strategy one, and it talks about, all right, so then how do we get them starting to monitor their reading? This was one that I really, they're getting their mouth ready, they're looking at the picture, but then they're reading, and we still say, does that make sense? So there are several things you can do to get them to understand, does it make sense? And so this is what we've done. We start with, how do we teach them, does it make sense? So, I try to put the teacher talk in where it says, sometimes when reading, students do not recognize when text doesn't look right, sound right, or make sense. You know, I was listening to CJ read, and when he said that somebody hopes and hops, and I'm thinking, okay, he's not even listening to himself to say, does that make sense? Because that doesn't make sense. And so I want him to understand, well, what does it mean to make sense? So we made these cards, and we give every kid a little chip so that they can mark it with it. And then we say, so let's read these two sentences to see which one would make sense with using the picture as our cross-check. And then they've got to read them. And they've got to decide, well, which one makes sense? Well, why does that one make sense? Because the other one says the man is little. There's no picture of a man, so that does not make sense. So you're going back to teach them that every word counts, that they've got to read every single word. We do just a couple of the cards a day. So this would go in, so a lot of times teachers are like, well, where does this fit in? This fits in after you've done this. This fits in after you've done this. Now I'm concentrating on reading through. This, to me, is something CJ needs because he was not monitoring his reading for making sense. You could take it up for him to this one and say, there are some sentences in here that do not make sense. You've got to read them carefully. Well, kids that have a problem with this are going to have a hard time finding the mistakes. They're going to see, I see the fish in the pond. They will not see, I see the wish in the pond, because they don't monitor their reading. So they've got to decide, well, which ones will not make sense? And they put little chips on it. And then we just talk about it. Why doesn't it make sense? Because it says this. Well, what would make sense there? Because I cannot tell you how many times I've said to children, you said this. Does that make sense? And they go, no. It says this.
What about when they say yes, it makes sense? It does it, but they say yes. I get that a lot. Do you use it?
Like,
Just let them be here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because they don't know what you're saying. They don't know. They have no clue what you're asking them.
Okay.
They have no clue.
Get the wish in the pond.
Yeah.
They have no clue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Ruby Payne. Anybody familiar with any of Ruby Payne's work? Ruby Payne talks so much about children not having a mental model of what we're talking about. So they have no clue when we're teaching something because we can envision it in our head, they cannot. And so I think all the time, how can I make whatever I'm teaching them concrete? How can I provide a visual to help them understand what I'm talking about?
So that's what you would do. Okay, so.
Yeah, I'd say, well, let's go back and look at those, those words. What's the picture that you see with that? I see the wish in the pond. Well, what usually lives in ponds? Oh, a fish. So it should say, I see the fish in the pond. Usually I think they just don't understand what So now I'm teaching them what it means
To
to
stop and
not make
think
sense,
about it.
stop and think about it. And again, one of these is not enough, you know? So I might do one of these a day to say, when you're reading, every word counts. Most kids, and I would say this was so true of CJ, this is why he needs more even independent level 6s, because he was struggling to decode so many words. That 8 was not an automatic thing, you know? So he didn't recognize when it did not make sense. This was my big aha moment, and it actually occurred with 5th grade writers. Because we had so many kids that have not had keyboarding skills, it's really hard to compose on the computer if you are hunting and pecking and trying to capitalize. I type automatically. And so we've, in the past, been able to have our kids compose right on the computer, but they could not do it. We've had too many children come in that could not compose on the computer. So they had to write theirs out and draft it out first, because otherwise they had one capital and one period. They had more run-on sentences than I've ever seen. And it wasn't because they didn't know sentences, it's because they could not concentrate on the typing and on the composing. Same thing with kids in reading. If you have to concentrate so hard on the decoding, you cannot comprehend at all. So it's that automatic word that we really need a lot of. Where's his group on it, word study? He's saying short vowels probably.
I think he's on blends.
The blends go with short vowels.
But they didn't get back to the... He's on sort diagraphs. Sort diagraphs, 32.
So don't you do digraphs the same time you do short vowels? You just do digraphs with pictures?
Depends on which one they are, because they start, yes, it starts with diagraphs. That's the short vowel.
Yeah, so what you're doing, the whole focus is short vowels, right?
The part of the word they're focusing on is digraphs. So they would go with words that had short vowels. So they would have covered short vowels, like word families.
And then you
like
go back
it.
and do all digraphs by itself again?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way our word study book that we use suggests to do it, and so we're following that suggestion.
Usually it's got digraphs with short vowels. So you do digraphs and blends with pictures? And then you go, just do it with short vowels?
Yes.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to just do S words, H words, and SH words, would you? Is that how Susan taught you?
31 is ST and ST, so you're doing, sorry. So they're doing S words, T words, and ST words.
All with, and you've already done 3 tiers of short vowels.
Correct.
And it's
Got everything on
pictures.
your flipping computer. It's pictures, so where are the words?
Then the next one will be the... Oh, no, they're just doing the sounds.
So,
And they-
okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to blow your mind with something with word study. All right, here's the mistake people make with word study, and I only know because I've taught the class 12 times, the 3-credit class 12 times. You do blends and digraphs at the same time. If you get out your words their way.
Right there, like in the
Okay. If you get your words their way, so this is what I'd like you to do. You do pictures. It's the only place in word study where you're doing 2 sorts a week, is when you're in short vowels. So there are 3 levels to short vowels. There's word families. This is where you're using CVC words, and you might have at words to at words, right? Okay. At the same time, you might be doing, depends on if they need it, because they're supposed to get digraphs in kindergarten. But if they need it based on their DSA, then you might be doing S pictures to SH to H pictures. At the same time you're doing this. So you would introduce these words on Monday. they might resort on Tuesday, and then you might give them these pictures to sort. Then this can be a task that they do the rest of the week, just playing with it. We've made flip-it cards. So here's a shoe. That shoe. And then this might be soap. And so they just play with this where they get a whiteboard and a stack of cards and they just write down, well, what's the beginning sound? And they flip it over, on the back is the answer. So they're playing something with these, but you're always doing words, and then these are just pictures that you're doing at the same time. So
Why at the same time? They don't seem to be interacting with each other at all.
they will, because then when I go to the next sort, I could add, I could eventually, when I get down to like I might bring SH in.
Is it gonna be an IT at the end?
When I'm doing push and say, so my favorite was when we had it, and we were pushing and saying, and some little kid goes, it, tit. Yeah, and I'm going like this, thank God I'm the only one looking around. This is the most confusing part of word study for people. So you do word families, then you go across word families. That's why you've just got the pictures. So if you look at the Words Their Way book, you're following more Kathy Gonski. But Words Their Way is what Kathy Gonski is based on. Her Word Journeys is just her doctoral thesis that she got from UVA. So it says to do these things simultaneously. They're going on simultaneously. So you don't have to have separate blend weeks. Because you've got, you're going to be hard pressed to get through feature F by the end of the year.
Usually.
And that's what,
And they don't,
that's
and then
what,
that's where our pals spelling
that's the problem
scores
is
come in.
whenever they,
Because
they
you're
haven't gotten
taking
far
too
enough
long
with the word
with this.
We barely get to long vowels. Barely.
You should get through feature F, BCE pattern. Where's your top group at?
Right now mine is at long vowels.
But they all should get through feature F. Because that's where you're expected to be through for PALS, and that's what's expected by the end of first grade according to the state standards.
Well, I understand that, but I also thought that guided reading and word study was leveled, and so
It is.
you may not be ready to go to feature F.
You might not, but we certainly start to expose it to them because they're reading so many words with it.
Okay.
And again, if you had them up to where they should be, that's 16, even at 14, they should make it there.
Right.
It's just this should be going on with this, because it's just pictures. And then they start to put them into their words. And that again, I don't want to make you change everything, it's just something you could think of, because they might already know some of their S blends. Like when you gave the DSA, if they demonstrate that they already know it, why do it?
Right.
Don't do the ones that they already know. Do the ones that they don't know. And then Allison might help you understand this too. I think this is the most confusing part of word study that's out there. All right, how much time do we have until 11:45, 10:45? I don't know if I should give you this or we should make plans or what. Whether you want to do another running record? Tell me, what would you like to do?
What is that?
This is looking at more problems they make. So this was going to be based on our transitional running record. Could we do a kid with a transitional running record? Can we? That would be great.
Yeah. What level books do you have?
I only have low levels. I didn't get anything real high, so we need to go get. So like what?
Oh, I only have one in my bag.
I got something already.
Well, I have some in my bag too.
I have one. I have 14s.
What,
Yeah.
what level transitional reader?
She's gonna do a 17.
Oh, okay.
What's a 17?
17. DRA. What's the DRA level of a 17?
I might grab one a little higher.
Make sure it's their instructional level.
This is a 20, this is a 24, kid? Neither one then?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey, you wanna grab a kid? It's on an 18.
Huh? I'm just thinking like,
Okay, yeah, she's already gone.
you guys look like us last time.
Yeah. And we spent an
You guys
entire
look like us last
Saturday
time.
Didn't that, we spent the whole
We spent the
weekend
entire
after that.
weekend together. Uh-huh, that's not how she said it.
That was the first thing, because that was just
I know.
What?
That's not exactly how Susan presented it.
How did she say?
Um,
Because we should be saying similar things. Right. You do them simultaneously.
That was not presented.
I'll check with her and see what she said.
Which is no big deal. I want to do what's best for the
Didn't know.
kids to make
Right.
sure that they're getting what they need, and it completely makes sense that we do need to get through level F.
Yes.
Yes, try that one.
Before we get started, I just want you to whisper read this first page to me, okay? And I'll be able to tell if this is too hard or not. This is a book called The Pain and the Great One, and it's about a brother and a sister. And he thinks she's a big pain.
My brother's a pain. He won't get out of bed in the morning. Mom has to carry him into the kitchen. He opens his eyes when he smells his cornflakes.
Okay, I think that's okay. Yep. All right. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna time her for a minute because she's a transitional, so we're also gonna just take a look at the sweep hand. And she's just gonna read to me, okay? So keep going until I just tell you to stop. All right, sweetheart?
Okay.
Okay, ready? Go.
He should get dressed himself. He's 6. He's in the 1st grade, but he's so hopeless. Daddy has to help him or he'd never be ready in time and he missed the bus. He cries if I leave without him. Then Mom gets mad and yells at me, which is another reason why my brother's a pain. He's got to be first to show Mom his schoolwork. He says, oh, and ah, and over all his pictures, which ain't great at all, but just ordinary 1st grade stuff. At dinner, he picks at his food. He's not supposed to get dessert if he doesn't eat his meat, but he always gets it anyway.
All right, so why do you think she thinks he's a pain?
Because he gets stuff anyway when he's not supposed to.
And that would make him a pain. What are some of the things he gets when he's not supposed to?
When he's supposed to eat his meat, he gets dessert anyway.
Yeah, what else? Do you remember anything else?
He's the first to get to show him his work.
Uh-huh. Well, how does the sister feel about all of this?
He doesn't get much attention.
Ah, so I think that's her problem, isn't it? She's feeling like she doesn't get much attention. You did a really good job reading. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Round of applause, round of applause.
Okay, thanks, sweetie.
Good job, girl.
That was wonderful. She was great. There were only 2 errors she made. She said the word he for she. He says ooh and ah, and it was she says ooh and ah over all of his pictures. And then she omitted the word art.
Oh, I thought she was saying
No.
art.
Which word did
Was
she
it
omit?
art not or
He, let's see, he says ooh and ah over all his pictures. Aren't. It was aren't.
Okay.
And then, so then I put a slash
Uh-huh.
at a minute, So she had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 78 words per minute. So just for fun and giggles, let's look and see where she is on the first grade. So she's really pretty good. So spring, to be in the 75th percentile, you should be reading grade level material. So if she was on grade level material, I'm sure she would easily make their benchmark. It's 82 words per minute.
And is that first grade or second grade?
That's first grade.
Okay.
So she's right there. She's right there.
Yeah,
Well, but
and she was
that's
reading,
24.
that's a 24, so if she was
would-
given a 16,
she'd
she'd
be
be
on it.
fine. Yep. Yeah, so when you look at her words per, I think her words per minute are okay. I'd want her a little bit smoother, but I think she did great. Just 2 omissions, so that means she's reading it at 98%.
There was something that she went back and monitored because it
She
didn't make
did.
sense. I don't remember what it was.
Where was it? Yeah, Daddy has to help him get, and she got pokey, which I was glad. I mean, and she could tell me what was going on.
I loved her word. Wasn't getting enough attention.
I mean, this would be very appropriate for her, I would think.
So how many words did she read per minute?
78. Would you classify her word by word, choppy phrases, smooth reading?
Choppy phrases.
Choppy phrases, I would too. Did she use expression?
I think so. Well,
No,
still
I don't
Not
know.
really.
She did attend to punctuation.
She attended to punctuation. She was not reading in meaningful phrases. There was no self-corrections. She didn't miss any high-frequency words. There was no, I mean, he for she. So that might be one. And that could eventually change understanding of text. So I might do a fast read. I actually think I even have a he, she fast read. Because it's the same mistake all kids make. I don't care where you're from, you're making the same mistakes. This was my he, she fast read. So when we notice what high frequency words are they inserting, we make these fast reads. And so all you do is, you tell them, read these, and then read it in context. Because they're just not attending to it. So they would go, he, she, he, she, he, she, he, she, she, he. And then they have to read the sentences. So this is what we work on when they do those high frequency words. Because again, that has to count as an error. She knows the word is she. She got pokey. And ordinary. She shouldn't be, but I have to count it as an error. So we've made a lot of these fast reads whenever we look at that. So that's what I tell my teachers, which ones are down here that we need to make fast reads on. Other than that, I would think she doesn't, we need to work on her with phrasing.
They just said, can we get those fast reads? I was like, don't worry, it's already on the list.
She's working on choppy phrases, so what do you do for phrasing? You tell me what you do and I'll tell you what I do. I love scooping,
We
the
do
phrasing.
phrase reads where they break it into the chunk with a little bit, sweeping first and then phrase breaks.
So tell me when you teach scooping,
Scooping, I teach with my early transitional readers.
and then how do you do it? Let's talk about how
I usually pull up
We have text like that.
text copies.
I want to show you how we do it.
Okay.
With our
I don't know.
So she should have gotten it from me then.
It looks like.
I think we actually said
So again, when you're doing scooping, you have to commit to doing it for 3 weeks. So it's 1 piece of text per week. So this would be a packet that I would use for a week.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is short scoops. So I show the kids that you gotta go like this. Hi, Mrs. Smith, said Mark, as he waved to the mail lady. Are there any letters for me today? Here's what you can't do. And we use either fingers or I went and got a bunch of swizzle sticks. Here's what you can't let them do. Hi, Mrs. Smith, said Mark. It's got to be scoop and then talk. Hi, Mrs. Smith, said Mark. That's day 1. Day 2 are longer phrases. Hi, Mrs. Smith, said Mark as he waved to the mail lady. Are there any letters for me today? No, the letters are for your dad, she said. The third day, you give them a highlighter and say, highlight the punctuation. Now we're reading the punctuation. Hi, Mrs. Smith, said Mark as he waved to the mail lady. Are there any letters for me today? No, the letters are for your dad, she said. So you highlight that so that on Thursday and Friday they're reading it without anything.
No sweeping marks, no
No,
highlights,
they're just
nothing.
reading it. So if we do scooping, then you would have this for 1 week, then you'd have another one for another week, and another one for the next week. We do this on independent level text. Then we started doing this one, and I don't think I brought a copy of it. I took Frog and Toad. And I took Frog and Toad and I typed it this way. And I just, because this was for kids that were already reading in phrases, and I think I brought it. Oh, I did. I put it on the back of this one. So, in Frog and Toad, they were reading already in short phrases, so I wanted more meaningful phrases. So, they read this. They have to read a phrase at a time. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. Toad, Toad, shouted Frog. Wake up, it is spring. Blah, said a voice from inside the house. Toad, Toad, cried. So we did Frog and Toad in phrases like this to see if, oh, that might help too.
So you did that after you did this, or before?
Yes, after.
That after.
Yes. Then another one that I do, and Susan said, share that. I take a small card. I don't have a red pen. Anybody got a red pen? Orange. Orange works. And I make an arrow like this. And I do this with my second graders that are disfluent and my third graders. And so I've got a red tip on a corner. And so I need let's see, come be my partner a second. Do this book. So if you're partner reading, she's going to be my partner. I'm controlling this. And so I'm going to keep this moving, and I model this with the kids. And so she's got to keep her eyes going. The reason some kids do not, they're so disfluent is they don't look ahead. Good readers do what? You're always looking ahead. But they've trained their eyes to stay right here instead of looking ahead. So I'm going to do this to see if I can train her eyes to move ahead. So you can train them to do this with partners. So she's going to read this, and I'm going to keep this going like this. All right, go.
The next day, Sandy went on the hill with the sheep. When he saw a big pile of stones. That's funny, he said. I can see something gleaming.
So I'm doing this with a third grader, Caden, and because he wants to read like this. I start going like this. All of a sudden, he is just reading so smoothly. And I said, okay, we're going to keep doing this until you get to the point where you don't need this. I'm going to do it for you right now, but you've got to keep it going. You're slowing yourself down. So you can do this with partner reading. Again, we've been doing so much partner reading because it's that oral reading that kids are not getting to that I think is really important. All right, she was an awesome little reader. And she could tell me what it was about. All right, so
I got dibs on her next year.
you got tips on her.
I have a
So-
question about those sleeping, I'm sorry. I've tried this with my older groups a couple of times, and I honestly don't know what to tell them about when to know where to stop the sweeping. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when they read it for the first time, they're like, I don't know where.
That's why I put the scoops in. They won't
do it
know.
for them. Oh,
I have to do it for them.
Okay.
Yeah,
You've got, that's what you've got to do. You've got to put it in there, because they won't know.
Okay.
So you make them short at first just to give them.
I do it short, then long, then to the punctuation, and then nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I have to write that on there, do it for them.
Yeah, you want to do it for them, otherwise they don't get it. Any other thoughts? Alrighty, girls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be thinking about, I'm not quite sure. I'm here in a couple weeks, but I'm not quite sure who I'm with or what we're doing. I don't know.
Okay,
Okay,
you ready to, you should just share your hard drive with us.
Yeah.
all right.
That's our wish list.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.